what I wanted to do was start off with sharing, if I can. Yep. Also need to get a bit of gap from seeing me. It's hard to know what you're going to see. Okay, so I hope you can see. Rajapabla, if I ask something, you just put your thumbs up and then I'll know everyone can see. And Chavaji, I can see you as well. So yeah, so for those of you who have come to Tibetan what you'll see when you leave the shrine room out of some windows is a picture, or it is basically this stupa. Sorry, what you're seeing is a picture of the stupa, but actually if you were here on retreat, you'd actually be seeing the stupa. So the stupa contains Dhardo Rimpoche's relics. So there's very much, I was very moved to ask to say something around Dhardo, because there is quite a strong presence of Dhardo here at Tibetan. For people that haven't been here, it's an ordination training centre, yeah, for women training who've asked for ordination. So if you haven't asked for ordination and you want to train in the women's wing, hopefully you'll come here and you will see this for yourself. So on the stupa, Dhardo's motto has been etched, engraved. So yeah, Cherish the Doctrine is on there. That's what it kind of starts with. So I wanted to say, let me stop sharing that for a minute. So I personally haven't met Dhardo Rimpoche, but I've had a very strong sense of Dhardo Rimpoche, mainly through visualizing him. So when you ask for ordination and you're in the order, you do a visualization practice of the tree of refuge and respect that focuses on our lineage. And he's very much there in the teachers of the present, sitting on a lotus flower. But also in 2013 with Bodhisattva, a number of us went to the convention in India, the Order Convention, and we also then went on a pilgrimage of Sangharakshita and his teachers. So I actually went to Kalimpong, and that Dhardo Rimpoche might have been there, but what we got to see were his lodgings, which are situated within the school. And I just wanted to share, anyway, Bodhisattva might be able to say something at some point, but I just wanted to share, there was a strong atmosphere there, even though the Rinpoche himself wasn't present, and the walls had tankers on them, and there was this big glass cabinet that just had loads of Buddhas and you know, ritual implements really. So the atmosphere was kind of soaked with practice, so it felt quite significant really to be in his lodgings. And then just looking out from his lodgings, I'll see if I can share a little bit around. So this is one picture of the school that he founded. So you might have had a talk around that. So that was in 1954, and it's the ITBCI school. But actually, apparently, Dhardo Rinpoche used to enjoy saying it in full. So it's the Indo-Tibetan Buddhist Cultural Institute School. And I have got, hopefully, another little photo. Let's see if I can share that with you. So they took us round the school, and these were some of the children there. So I wanted to share this because even if you don't, you know, you don't know someone very well, you can still be very strongly influenced by how someone lives their life. So obviously these pictures were given to me by Amina Ketu, as you can see, and there was a thought for the day up there. So you can get a sense of someone through how they live their life. And when I was thinking, what would I say about Cherish the Doctrine? And I know that Shubha last week, Hashapaba told me, went into the Dharma Vandana, really was exploring the Dharma Vandana. A teaching came to mind. So basically, when the Rinpoche was asked, Dhardo Rinpoche was asked what he wanted the children to go away with when they left the school, you know, whether he wanted them to be Buddhists. He said actually what he wanted them to go away with was a sense that actions have consequences. So that's what he wanted them to leave with. Actions have consequences. So I'm going to be peppering my little talk, which hopefully I won't go on, by some lines from Vijayamala. So some of you might know Vijayamala. She actually met Dhardo Rimpoche in person. And I wanted to dot that in there because when you're talking about actions having consequences, that was something very important to Dhardo Rinpoche among, I'm sure, a plethora of things. I think there's something about the way she writes about him that communicates that. So this is her voice speaking, describing the Rinpoche. I was struck by his free spirit, his spontaneity, his joy, and his kindness. When later I read about his vigorous training and daily routine, I was a little taken aback. In the West, we do not normally associate freedom with such discipline. So so thinking about actions have consequences. Well, the Rinpoche's practice was visible. I thought that was a lovely kind of and I'm sure our practice is visible, to at least some extent. So actions have consequences is an expression of the Buddha's insight into conditionality. So you could say, or what I'm taking it to mean, is that the Rinpoche wanted the children to take out into the world this sense of moral agency, their own sense of karmic agency. So that might not sound that exciting, but actually it's quite crucial to our Dharma life. So it's really interesting that we started off connecting, but then Bodhisattva led us through the refuges and precepts. So what does this actually mean? So what it means is, one way of talking about it is in terms of ethical practice. So one way of talking about it is taking possession of our moral agency, means accepting responsibility for our choices that we make, the actions that we perform, and then naturally, obviously, the mental states that we get into. And I was really delighted to hear, I can't see Darren, but Darren talked about Mind Creative, Mind Reactive lecture, and I've just finished a week's study on that. So when I was thinking about actions having consequences and us taking responsibility for ourselves, Bante's teaching on Mind Reactive, Mind Creative came to mind, because I think that's a really easy way, in a way, to start to just become more aware, to notice whether the nature of mind is closed or whether it's open. And Sangharakshita, who I'm calling Bante, sorry, so Sangharakshita describes the reactive mind as being habitual and unaware, and I think Darren was talking about that. Can also be quite negative, quite mechanical, not stopping to think and consider the consequences for ourselves and others. It simply reacts to external stimuli in a habitual pattern, so to speak. So in this way, if we allow emotional responses to external stimuli to go unchecked, or when they're acted out, in a way we reap the consequences. So basically, it's a bit of a warning, isn't it? If we don't work on our states of mind, we will become set in our ways. And even when we do work on our states of mind, I'm sure we have a sense of, we can still be pretty set in our ways. But so when I was thinking about this, thinking mind creative, mind reactive, and I've recently been in a kind of feedback process, which has been very, very positive, actually. But I don't know about you, but sometimes one can be quite surprised that other people see you in a certain way. You don't see yourself like that. But when they maybe give you some feedback or tell you about it, you can think, oh yes, I understand why they think that, because in different situations, stress or in the grip, however you might want to describe it, these states can arise. And for you or for myself, they can be quite temporary. But for other people, the effect can be kind of like this potential personality coming into being, which they might either dread or, depending what it is, might quite like. So in order to, take on board this sense of moral agency, we need to get to know these different sides of ourselves. And most of us have those, and they fluctuate, and, psychology describes them as subpersonalities. So we need to get to know these sides of ourselves in order to take responsibility, and also know when these sides don't communicate with one another. So sometimes the head and heart can be quite divided. But the effects of practice are not only can we respond habitually, but actually the effects of practice, what they look like for Rinpoche. So I'm just coming back to a little quote from Vijayamala. So Rinpoche followed a regular routine of daily practice. He saw these practices as an essential basis for the development of insight and compassion, the basis from which everything else in his life derived. The practices allowed him to be free, free of the tyranny of the dissipated, undisciplined mind, of what we might call the ego. So anyway, I really like that. So if we want to make progress, if we want to move towards seeing things as they really are, we obviously need to take on the law of karma. And I'm sure we all do, actually, that actions have consequences. But we might want to ask ourselves, how deeply do we take that on board? So do we have a sense of what effect our states of mind has on ourselves and others, and the extent that we're even able to see things? So I wanted to just talk a little bit personally, because it is quite a crazy kind of unprecedented time that we're in, and I wanted to share a working ground very kind of quickly. There have been events in the media as well, the George Floyd incident. And nowadays, with internet, one of the delights is that we can connect like this. But another effect of that is we can see things quite unmediated, quite directly. And I recall seeing a little bit of that. And I kind of caught I felt a lot of pain. And I caught this tendency, so I don't know about you, but when pain arises, there can also be a desire to kind of want to blame. But the good thing is there was also a desire not to get into that. So I wanted to share, whatever we get caught in kind of binds us. So I just had this sense, and I'm sure we've all had this, but you know, when you just have it a bit more strongly, I had this sense that it's good to notice that the more strongly I kind of felt that within myself, my sense of self became more solid, and the sense of us also became more solid as well. So it's a bit like our injury and our enemy grow together, they're bounded together. And it's just helpful to know that negative states of mind, like aversion, it's highly unlikely that we're going to get closer to the truth, or that's what I kind of reminded myself of. And so there's a difference between a discerning mind and a polarizing or side-taking mind. And it's the ill will behind that, really, that results in, you know, the unskillful nature of it. So really trying to work with my mind, and you know, I really have a strong desire not to polarize, you know, to try and see things a bit in a broader picture where I can, so that I can act from a more skillful basis. So when I was trying to think, oh gosh, how does one not polarize in this situation? This kind of just thought came to me, and I was sharing it with Vajri actually the other day when we went for a walk. And it just came to me, which was like, that could be me. I could be both the person on the ground, and I could be, you know, the police officer kneeling as well. And it came as a bit of a like, oh yes, there have been many incidences in my life where I've sort of been at a crossroads, and conditions could have resulted in me being quite a different person to the person that I am today. So I'm sharing this not because I'm trying to make any statement really, but because that was a very strong state of mind, and something that I'm still processing for myself. And I guess what I feel in terms of actions having consequences, the more we practice, the more we work on our states of mind, what I felt like is that I'm becoming bigger I'm becoming bigger, and practice allows us in a way to try and become bigger, to hold more. And in that holding more, sometimes we're able to see more of the conditions that are allowing things to come into being. So in reactive states of mind, not only are we all capable of hurting one another, but we're also capable of profound empathy, even for those who have hurt us or for those we dislike. So I guess reflecting on actions having consequences, the Buddha is completely uncompromising around blame. is completely uncompromising, that we really need to work with that. So the spiritual life is not about negation, but about transformation. And what I was thinking working in the Metta Bhavana, that's a very direct way of working on states of mind that can result in a real strong sense of separation. And metta itself is called breaking down the boundaries. So Bhante describes the creative mind. He says that actually, if we work on our ethical practice, if we work on our states of mind, of body, speech, and mind, it allows us to develop, a consciousness, a self-reflexive consciousness that allows us to get glimpses of what goes beyond our limited, contracted sense of self. So a much deeper sense of empathy and connection. And what I was sort of thinking was, I didn't actually know whether we're chatting the Tibetan Vandana tonight or doing the 5 precepts. But here on our ethics practice, we sometimes combine at times, I think Claire's probably done that, Sheena's probably done that, and Ruth's probably done that. We combine the 5 stages of the Metta Bhavana and the 5 precepts. So and that's a tangible way of working on our minds. So in the second stage, bringing a good friend to mind, or in the 4th stage, bringing a difficult person to mind, we'll use the lines, with deeds of loving kindness, I cherish you. With open-handed generosity, I cherish you. With stillness, simplicity, and contentment, I cherish you. With truthful communication, I cherish you. With mindfulness, clear and radiant, I cherish you. So I know I'm not trying to say that things aren't complex and there aren't situations where that would be extremely difficult to do. But what we're trying to practice, and what we're trying to do, not just with the precepts, but also in our meditation practice, is to cultivate a momentum to try and turn towards, to try and hold the complexities of dukkha, both inner and outer, within ourselves and within the world. So what might this look like? I just wanted to come back to a quote from Vijayamala on the Rinpoche. So what might it look like to really take that cherishing the doctrine, mean cherishing others as well, to heart? And so this is her words. She described Rinpoche as embodying this inner freedom, this egolessness, and it had its effects on his outward words and his deeds. He lived free of conflict with others because he was free from biases, free from the worldly winds, the push and pulls of pleasure and pain, loss and gain, praise and blame, obscurity and fame, that motivates those of us caught up with concerns of the ego. Rinpoche was beyond these biases of ego and had nothing to fear from the worldly winds, and so was able to come into contact, a real contact with his fellow human beings. So I was really struck by that, real contact with his fellow human beings. And right now, for some of us, actually, it's quite hard to be in real contact with our fellow human beings because of the virus. And real contact also involves being together, doesn't it? But actually, this is a very happy intermediary. So I was just sort of thinking about what that real contact looks like, and Bhante Sangharakshita says the creative mind, so a mind that turns towards, that's imbued with metta. It loves where there's no reason to love, is happy where there's no reason for happiness, creates where there's no possibility of creativity, and in this way builds a heaven in hell's despair. So that's kind of words from a poem. So to draw out, not only are we working on ethics and we're working on meditation, but Sangharakshita and obviously Dhardo Rimpoche from his room, from the example of how he lived, surrounded by these tankas, surrounded by image potentiality through the Buddhas and Bodhisattva figures. Bhante really draws out the importance of us cultivating our imagination, and he talks about it as a faculty. So the reactive mind, the reactive imagination, it proliferates with endless negative imaginings and thoughts. We often talk about that as prapancha. But we also need to cultivate our imagination, the imagination that takes us beyond separation, even within quite adverse situations, that takes us beyond a sense of our isolated, separate self. And we talk about this as the gap. Darren talked about the gap between our reactivity, our past conditioning, opening up to this present moment, so actually something truly spontaneous and new could possibly emerge. So we need to, in a way, embody, we need to have a heart connection with our highest goal. And that's really felt like that for me in the lockdown. It's felt like not only do I need to work on my states of mind, but actually I need to activate mythic dimensions within my own being. I need to touch into a much deeper source of inspiration. So when I was thinking about that, what came to mind, and I'm near conclusion because I don't know if I might be slightly starting to run over, what came to mind was that Dhardo Rimpoche gave Bhante, gave Sangharakshita the White Tara initiation just before he was due to come back to the West to actually start a new Buddhist movement, which has turned out to be the Triratna Buddhist movement. And I was thinking, gosh, isn't that interesting? So I wanted to evoke Tara for you. So Tara is depicted in white. Oh, I forgot to show you. I've got carried away. Hang on, I want to show you a picture of Dhardo first. So this is a picture of Sangharakshita and Dhardo Rimpoche. And there is another one as well, which is also my favorite, that I'll see if I can, this is me taking a photo of it, not a very, very good job. So you can see hopefully my cursor because Bodhivanks has given me power. So that's obviously Bhante in the middle, and that's Dhardo Rinpoche to the side here. Here is a picture of okay, so I hope you can see a picture of White Tara, and I'm going to try and make her a little bit bigger. I think that's what you can, I think you can see what I can see. I probably read, yeah, so this is White Tara. So very interestingly, what Dhardo Rinpoche decided to do was to give Bhante the White Tara initiation. And just to say, Bhante was delighted to be considered Dhardo Rinpoche to be a bodhisattva, but he considered Dhardo Rinpoche to embody those qualities of awareness and mindfulness. So just to share a couple of my thoughts around White Tara. So first, to describe her, you can see her before your own eyes. So she's white, very beautiful. You might find that picture beautiful or not, but you'll need to use your own imagination if not. Very, very beautiful, graceful, clad in silk and jewels, and carrying a smiling expression. And she carries the emblem of the white lotus. In a way, all of our potential to awaken. Yeah, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. In fact, I could probably spend a whole evening, hours talking about White Tara. But White Tara is particularly distinguished by her 7 eyes. She's got 2 eyes in the usual place, as you can see, and she's also got an eye in the middle of her forehead. Then she has got eyes in the palms of her hands, and also eyes in the soles of her feet. So you could see that the eyes, in the 3 eyes, her eyes and her eye in her forehead, you could see that as embodying wisdom. So Tara is known for her awareness. So she has 7 eyes. She has 7 eyes, so she embodies awareness, almost this panoramic awareness that is quite hard to be in contact with at all if we're caught in the grip of the creative mind, or if we're caught in a certain sort of way. So she embodies this stillness, and she imbues that to those who turn towards her. So she really supports us not getting caught up in the worldly winds. So these eyes represent wisdom. So you could see the wisdom being that actions have consequences, that all things that existing in a web of interdependent conditions, nothing exists by itself and separate from other things. And then she's also got these 4 other eyes, so in the palms of her hands and in the soles of her feet. So that wisdom is imbued with compassion. So her wisdom and compassion aren't separate. So those eyes connected to her hands and her feet, you could see that being part of love and understanding, really. So the wisdom is accompanied by an attitude of life that is expressed through actions of body, speech and mind of loving and kindness. So it's a vision of our human potential. So White Tara's actions flow from this awareness that transcends inner and outer, allowing her to have an awareness that is imbued with compassion. So I think I just want to end now, really. So just want to end on a picture of what that might really look like. So again, I'm just going to use Vijayamala's words. So Vijayamala says that Rinpoche's love radiates out. I'll see if I can get Rinpoche just before I finish. Lovely. A different one's turned up, but that's fine. So Rinpoche's love radiates out. There were no impurities to get in the way. What is left is therefore an uninterrupted stream of compassion that radiates across time and space. I think being exposed to this for a few days had the effect of subtly rearranging my constituent parts. I now have a reference, a constant reference point in my memory of Rinpoche. When I get literal about things, or when I find myself looking for big spiritual experiences, I bring to mind the extra extraordinariness of his presence. So the extra extraordinariness of his presence gives me an almost tangible sense of what it would feel like to be at the same time full of emotion and yet completely unself-referential. I know it is possible. I have seen it. So folks, that's it for me. I hope I've just kind of evoked some sense of actions having consequences, and in a way what we might want to move towards, and what also might be possible in the most positive of senses in relation to actions having consequences. Our practice can radiate and could radiate and probably does radiate out into the world.